let's see. The first one, she's a ship on a planet. There, mystery.
She's a ship?
Yeah. Don't, okay, don't ask me to describe anything ever in your life, or you're gonna get some really special explanations. I don't know what it's called though. It's probably like Ancillary salad. No one's gonna be sad when the chips fly in Ancillary Justice 3 Salad Bar Revenge.
In a world where thrills are cheap and free time is cheaper, two friends set out on an epic journey to write a new song each week, starring Eyal Alves as Eyal and A. Walker Spring as Walker, with special guest appearance as himself, Skyler Norwood, in Honest Jams, the podcast. They'll keep you honest. Coming to a podcast hosting site near you.
Wow. In a world to start off.
I was trying to do my best Don LaFontaine. I think
Amazing.
I ended up halfway between Nixon and Commander Zulu there at the end.
Both great narrating voices.
I wish I could just be George Takei's voice all the time. I love it. Thanks for being on the show,
Hi,
Sky.
Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Hell yeah.
Out of the house in the isolation booth.
Yeah, very isolated in there.
Yeah.
This is fun. This feels like clandestine interview or something.
It almost feels
just
more
like,
pro. It's like we're in like a legit studio.
This is what I wanted. This is what my intention when I called you earlier this week. I don't want that Skype audio. I want that crisp Honest Jam audio.
Sweet SM7.
That's right.
Destination Universe audio.
Oh, yeah,
actually.
that's right. Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you, Victor, to recording the show this week.
Engineer Victor.
Yeah.
Well, we usually have our songwriting guests pick the prompt for the following guest, but I had a prompt in mind specifically for you, Skyler, because we've been bandmates for like 15 years now, and
A little longer.
movies have always been a big part of that band. Getting ourselves to practice by promising a film night afterwards.
Oh yeah.
My favorite way to experience films in that band was probably on tour in the van, just listening to you recite the plot of movies. It's really the only way to experience Tron 2.
Yeah, well, you forget to mention that also we'd be listening to the soundtrack while I'd be describing said
Wow.
movie. It really put me in the zone that way.
I think we stopped to pick you up on our way on tour once, and you were still packing, so we watched part of a movie on half speed, and you just narrated, like you just sped up the dialogue and kind of filled it out.
Sounds like me.
So anyway, I picked movies, particularly the worst movie of all time, because you have introduced us to so many terrible pieces of cinema and terribly, wonderfully,
You're welcome.
deliciously horrible, bad. I was just curious, when did you first fall in love with movies?
Well, it's weird. I was thinking about that too, because there's kind of like a popularity to bad movies, and there's even articles that say, you know, you're smart if you like bad movies, which to me is hilarious. So I was thinking, I've always liked bad movies, even movies that are considered bad now. I was like, oh, I saw it when I was a kid. I like that one. So I just would have to give credit to my mom for sure, because she loved movies and she loved bad movies and cheesy movies, and we'd watch, you know, Goldie Hawn and Overboard and Emilio Estevez and Free Jack, and she just said, oh, this is great, you know, in the parts that she was awake for, and it was great. So that's when I knew. Plus TV, I don't necessarily have the attention span for it, especially nowadays. There's these really beautiful long form narratives that are hard for me to commit to. So I love putting on a movie, and it's like an hour and a half to 2 hours of just like set time, especially if I can rent it. Shout out to Movie Madness. Because I say, okay, I can sit down for this amount of time, and when it's over, I can move on with my day or my night or whatever, which is amazing, because that's exactly how I write songs as well, is in that context of just like, this is the time, I'm going to do this now, and then I'm going to move on from it forever. But I really am going to try to make a meal out of it during that, hour or 2 hour.
Do you remember when you started writing songs?
When I was a kid, I didn't know how to play music, but I always thought of songs. So I would write lyrics, and I had lyrics, and I knew how the songs went in my head, but I couldn't play any music. But I guess I was probably in middle school. Yeah, middle school. I remember I wrote a song about a cherry that was evil or something. I just thought, what an evil fruit.
Just like the lyrics of it in your head?
Yeah, no, I wrote it out.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote it in a book. I have a couple notebooks of it. And,
Can you remember any lines from the evil cherry?
Yeah, the death cherry is the pits. And then it just got scary. Yeah, I loved that song. And then and then Animals Are Naked was a big hit, which I remember saying like spam animals and stuff like that. And I really liked rhyming funky, clunky, junky monkeys and stuff like that. And yeah, spam animal was a really fun one that I liked. And, just about absurd stuff. And then I didn't really write like from the heart
Right.
just yet. That came a little later.
But you were practicing something.
Yes. Yeah. And it was just the ability to let music be about anything and everything. And what better than to do it than just like a short attention span. And so I would just write these. They weren't poems because they were songs in my head.
Right.
They were songs. There was music when I read them. I could sing them, but yeah, so that was fun. I think I still have a couple of those books.
Did that inspire then learning how to play instruments? Like, was it to service that?
Absolutely, yeah. Like maybe the 9th grade, I got a guitar for the first time, a little PV Predator. Oh man, and I would just kind of play along with like albums, power chords and stuff to learn Green Day or Jawbox or whatever, Face to Face, just fast bar chord stuff. And then of course Weezer, Smashing Pumpkins, all those I really liked a lot.
Just learning it by ear.
Just learning by ear, never any lessons or anything, but just that was the way. And it's funny too because I didn't retain any of that. Like I was never, how some people.
Oh, those Green Day riffs are in there somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm ripping them off all the time. But it's like, how there's somebody who can sit at a campfire and pull out an acoustic guitar and play just songs that everybody knows and loves.
Totally.
Even if I learned every song that everyone knows and loves, if I sat down, I'd be like, what? I just don't retain or have any drive to like, I don't know. I'd much rather like a song and then write my own version of that.
What about your songs? Do you have a quick recall for your own songs, or is it the same?
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's what I have a similar thing, I think, where it's just like there's something about, maybe it's the way that I create something, like I tend to play it over and over again, so then it kind of like gets into my body in a certain way, or the creative it's like it feels so intuitive to do it because it's came from inside of me.
Sometimes when you sit down at an instrument, your hands do something automatically. So do you ever are you trying to remember a song and you say, what chord would I play? And then you start playing this chord and you're like, oh yeah, that's it, because that's what I would play. Because
I'm always trying to figure out a riff on the tenor, which is in this tuning. If it's an open chord, it's just a beautiful 6 chord. You don't have to do anything at all. And I'm trying to figure out these riffs, and eventually, and it's like complex when you hear it, but then it's just like a pattern of your fingers just moving like one step or something like that. It's always
just a cliche version of yourself.
Yeah, just because, that was easy. I wouldn't have to move 2 frets instead of 1.
Yeah, but that's great though. So that's
it's your own style.
Yeah, and plus like, simplicity or complex, it doesn't matter. It's still gonna, at the end of the day, if the song gets you going, just find the spot. So
you just started playing guitar by ear. Did you then want to play in bands, or?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I would according to my parents, ever since I was born, I'd be like, and beatboxing and stuff like that all the time, which I've met other people and they do that too. They beatbox. I have like drum sounds I can move my teeth in ways. I don't do it anymore because I'm older, but where I can make a hi-hat
More
or a
sophisticated.
kick drum. Yeah, I'm more sophisticated. Not at all. I just don't want to damage my teeth. But yeah, I'm older now. I've moved on to actual instruments. And so I always wanted to play drums. And I remember like listening to Twisted Sister with my normal sister. And we would overturn laundry baskets and play drums with markers. And I always wanted to play drums, but they're loud and parents generally don't want them. And so I got a guitar, cheaper and quieter. So I just learned how to do that, and then started a couple bands with some friends. So I'm actually still friends with now. I play in Team Evil with Jordan, who we were in a high school band together.
Yeah.
And I just liked playing. I fronted a couple bands. I didn't front that one in high school, but when I did, it was so weird because I sang and I played guitar, but I didn't really work on writing songs. A lot of the lyrics, I would mouth sounds and just blah blah blah, and then I would fit words into them that sounded like them or rhymed in those things. And some of them, there was one line, it was like, "Show us something we can hold, forking out before a hotel real world," and like yelling that out really loud and like a Guy Picciotto from Fugazi vibe. And I was like, that's so good. And like, but it came from just mouthing. I don't know if you've ever done that. You're just like, I'm going to fit words in this lyrics in here.
We talk about that as like a songwriting process really sometimes, where it's just like, yeah, you're just making, like for writing lyrics, just, you get down some music and then you just kind of like make sounds over it and then try to create something out of that.
That's good. That's good because it like opens up a door and makes you feel free.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was
sometimes I'll do the cliche thing that we were talking about earlier too, where I'm like, oh, these are just vowel sounds that I usually make.
Yeah. There's a lot of like open vowel sound lyrics here going in, nothing too complex. But I feel like I was really lazy as a songwriter. I wasn't. I was a musician, but I didn't really focus on it or work too hard on it until years later when I met Walker and Victor and joined Point Juncture, Washington, and saw what it was like to be not militant anyway, but like exact, like precise, almost like a martial art is the way that I feel like they approached music. And it was so effortless and graceful that I really saw that and I took to it, which is probably how I ended up in the band. I appreciated it and I latched onto it, and it opened up my world, not to mention the music that they got me into, Sonic Youth, Yola Tango. And then it started expanding my songwriting to realize that I could do anything and it could be a song if I call it a song. Here's my song. And then once you say those words, like one of my favorite songs is a song where he says, I wrote a song that it's not really a song, but it's me describing what the song is about. Oh, I guess I just did that. And that's the song on a track, on an album, on a Joan of Arc album. And I always thought, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. What did you say was your motivation to keep like moving forward with music?
I liked the camaraderie about it. Like I always liked the being a part of it. It was funny because when I quit smoking, I had to quit drinking for a little bit, and it separated me from like the camaraderie party aspect of it. And I was like, why am I even playing music? Like it didn't make sense to me. But then it made even more sense to me in a way that I could find it again. But looking at that moment, I was like, why would I even question why I'm playing music? But then I started pouring myself more into lyrics and being more nostalgic for it, and carefully dabbling in nostalgia for lyrical content and heart content. And I ended up loving it. I never really wrote lyrics until 2007 or something like that. I was like, oh, these are fun and really cool.
How did you get into engineering?
That's another thing that started when I was young that I just ended up doing, where I was playing music and I went to visit my dad. I was living in Florida and he lived in Washington, and he had like an old Creamware or Cakewalk or something. And so I started playing music and recording it, and it was really great.
To a computer,
yeah. And just started multi-tracking. And it was cool because I would bring it back into Florida and say, hey, I wrote this, I recorded this. My friends would say, no, you didn't. They wouldn't even believe me. Not like I'm patting myself on the back, but Just
Jordan believed you, right?
of course, Jordan believed me. But just because I learned something, I'm not a great musician, but if I fit all these things, I can sort of play drums, I can sort of do this or that. Walker, I feel you're a virtuoso. Any instrument you touch, you're very great at, or at least you make it look like you know what you're doing.
Or I exploit the limitations.
Okay, that's a perfect way of saying it. So that's what I do as well in those situations where you add a bunch of stuff and it becomes this meaty song, this like with parts and everything. So all of a sudden, if you're somebody who can sit at a guitar store and noodle through amazing riffs, that to me was what I was taught was like a good musician or somebody who could play violin or
that's
cello.
called a tone daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
It's the guy in the suit who comes into Guitar Center just
I like that. Tone
to
daddy.
noodle those riffs.
Give me a call. Yeah, I guess I was never one of those.
Well, I think a lot of people quickly realize that technical skill doesn't equal connection or any of the things that people actually, or the majority of people listen to music for, I think.
Well, and that's the fun thing about recording is then you're not faking it, but you can capture this amazing. It was like what Christina Cano said on the space episode, which I really liked. She said that I want to remember this the right way, but she was basically saying I was demoing these parts, and I was like, I'm doing a good job at these demos, and to me, I was like, well, what's a demo? Like, at what point does it become a revamp or whatever? And to me, it's like, I like demo. I'll stop there. I'm like, everything's a demo from there on out, which is why a lot of my records and stuff are a lot of first and second takes for Team Evil. My stuff. Recording is just so fun because you could pile a bunch of stuff on in the most chaotic and beautiful way. And then you're like, now I'm a musician. I felt musical when I did that, and it changed everything. And then I just kind of started recording friends and asking, hey, you want to record? And, met a couple people who started a record label, and they brought people in, and then it kind of took off, and I could quit Subway and what have you. Yeah. So it started just multi-tracking before I even could play, and one informs the other,
Yeah. I think one thing, back to that demo thing, like for me, I think when I think about it, what distinguishes what I consider a demo versus like the final version of the song is just something that you probably don't even experience anymore, because you have this ability to engineer things in a way that like you know how to like create the space that
you could be lazy
does.
About it though. You could be quick about it.
Yeah, but you're good at it in a certain way where like I feel like my skill at you've obviously put in the time. You've been doing it since you were super young, and you also have like just a good ear, skill for it and talent for it. But for me, it's like I don't feel like I can get my demos to a certain place with how the audio sits, and so that's why then I call it a demo, so that I like feel like. But even though I do have what you're saying, where it's like that they're often the most inspired versions of the songs. They're where the song like originated from, and they have the most kind of like feel and groove than a lot of other versions do.
I think that's also a big part of Point Juncture, Washington, right? Is Walker will make a demo and will spend the rest of that song's life until it ends up on a record, not screwing it up from that original pure moment. There's something very special about accepting a demo for what it is and its flaws and stuff. And it's funny hearing you say that, even because I hear your music and I hear even the songs you do on the podcast, and all your mixes and everything that the both of you do just sound like you've spent a lot of time on it, and then afterwards, of course, you're like, I don't know, I just blah blah, and then I was just like, whatever. And then this version, even when Victor was on it, he said, oh, this is the song that I spent all this time on, and then I did this thing and I like this one better. I called him and I said, don't discredit that first one, because that one was really I thought that was great. But he's just like talking trash on all this stuff, and I'm like, aren't we funny as musicians to like, have these great gifts and always be striving to improve? And so embracing the demo is like a kindness to ourselves, to be able to say, this is okay and this sounds good, instead of using it as a crutch or a disclaimer, using it as a proud, like, technically I'm getting demos mastered this week for a new TiVo record.
Yeah.
When they're mastered, they're no longer demos. You know what I mean? You put a little shine on them. But before that, I always wondered if I was, whenever people ask me about what kind of equipment I use or this and that, my eyes always gloss over, because to me it's always about the emotional context of songwriting and where the heart of each song lies and where the heart of the performance lies. And sometimes that can be detrimental to an artist relationship as far as like flow, but so far I've had a lot of good success making what I feel are pretty great sounding records to some degree by knowing very little about signal chain and all that stuff. I mean, I know enough, but it's always enough. It's always enough. Just like demos are enough,
Right.
It's my lazy, short attention span brain that is applied to the way that I do these like artistic endeavors.
Well, it gets the job done.
It does.
Oh yeah.
Tie that back into shitty movies. Great. That take will do, Ed Wood or any of those people. I'm making all these connections to why I love these movies. They're charming, just like I feel, these records are charming and stuff. There's just something sincere about trying so hard for just a short amount, for not long enough,
Hell yeah. Well, we're excited to get into it, but before we do,
what does the internet say on the topic of the day? And if it's wrong, you can let us know by using the internet too.
okay, so I thought we'd start the internet section by just kind of laying down the playing field. So I looked online, and I made a little short list of movies they come up a lot on the worst movies of all time on the internet. So here's a few of them.
This is just an audience consensus across different.
It's my
critique.
aggregation of a bunch of different lists of things that appeared on a bunch of different lists.
All right.
One you're almost certain to see all the time is Battlefield Earth. Classic John Travolta.
Never
movie.
seen it.
You've never seen Battlefield
Earth?
Earth?
It's the one bad movie that I've never.
I
haven't seen it either.
I've never made it through like the first couple scenes. It's so poorly lit. I just don't know what's happening, and I'm like, I'll get to it later.
We got Batman and Robin.
Oh, yep.
Love Guru.
Also haven't seen it.
The Room.
I know you've seen that one.
Yeah.
I live my life by it. It's helped me through some tough times.
Gigli. Jack and Jill. Showgirls. And The Hottie and the Naughty.
Wow.
I hadn't even heard of that last
That's a
one.
Paris Hilton one.
Yeah, that's
It's
yeah.
truly awful, offensive in so many ways.
Yeah.
Terrible movie.
Yeah, when I think of like famous bad movies, some of those I don't even like. I forget about Jack and Jill and Gigli.
Right. Well, Gigli's like it's bad movie, right?
Yeah,
it's not a good bad movie.
Right, where it's not even enjoyable to watch. It's just kind of torture.
I was expecting there to be more sequels in that list.
I had a few, but then I knew that you were maybe going to bring up some sequels too.
I
I was also surprised actually how little old movies are on those lists, So you got some sequels to talk about?
Oh, I came across a bunch for my song. My first idea for my song was to use samples from trailers from sequels, terrible sequels.
Ooh.
I abandoned that idea, but because of that, I looked up a bunch of worst movie lists, and a lot of them were
Highlander
sequels.
2 is usually very high up there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's on the
Let's
theater.
see.
The Quickening.
Yeah.
Basic Instinct.
Not a verb.
Let's see, Basic Instinct 2.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a lot of these movies are
The
like...
Exorcist 2, isn't that
It's
on
a
there?
different writer. It's a different director. It's just
Right.
like has the same name. Let's see, Staying Alive.
Oh,
the Saturday
yeah.
Night Fever one. Jaws the Revenge, which is like, what? Is that the fourth?
That's the fourth
Jaws.
one, and that one's the one with the sentient shark that chases her down, finds her, says, "Hey, I killed your husband. Sorry."
Wait, what?
Pretty sure that's how it happens. You're just gonna have to trust me on that.
Let's see. They also had Return to the Blue Lagoon. Yeah, and some of these are movies that are. It's not even fun. There's no like
Right.
accidental laughs
Right.
that
Still,
happen.
still going with the. I've seen this good before, and
Yeah.
now this is not good. But Return to the Blue Lagoon is it's fun.
I liked it when I was a kid, but kids don't.
Right. Maybe.
know.
I saw it when I was a kid. Is that the one with Mila Jovovich?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe I haven't seen that one. Oh, Brooke Shields. That was the first one. It's not known as a bad movie. It should be.
Do you have any terrible movies that come to mind?
Well, The Room, that was mentioned. My favorite bad movie of all time is a movie called Death Spa. It's about it's really complicated, so I won't try to explain it. But
Is it like Deathbed, the bed that eats?
No.
What was that a real thing?
I think it was.
I think Deathbed was really sincere, at least from the trailer. Death Spa is a haunted spa in the 80s that is very high tech with a lot of robotics where there shouldn't be or there doesn't need to be.
I'm on board so far.
Yeah, a lot of great like jazzercise dance sequences, amazing clothing, but I think like the wife passes and haunts this place, but it turns out to be her brother who also dresses like her, who was a twin, and she died from self-immolation because she was in her wheelchair on a hill, but when she burns herself she stands up, so it's like she cured herself. It's very confusing. Great movie though. I highly recommend it. It's got layers. It's not your typical I mean, I could go on and on, but that one is just one that I think everybody should rent on Amazon or whatever, or Movie Madness once it opens. I think they have it on Blu-ray and DVD. You like my plugs?
Yeah.
I miss that place so much.
Yeah.
Like, again, with my attention span, I can't pick what's on Netflix or Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
I just sit there and like sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm going to open my list. I'm going to watch the movie that's in there. But with Movie Madness, you get it, you take it home, you're like, this is my plan for this hour and a half. And it's so satisfying. And with it closed, I'm like getting in shape and riding my bike everywhere. I'm like, this sucks.
Well, I want to get a little deeper into one of the movies that was in your list.
Oh, yeah.
Dale.
Uh-oh.
And this is now a franchise that has fascinated me for many years. I still haven't seen the whole original movie of it, but I want to take you back to the mid-90s and the writer-director combo of Joe Esterhaus and Paul Verhoeven are having a Hollywood lunch, no doubt, and they're fresh off the success of Basic Instinct from 1992. Huge hit. And Sliver from 93, which was
also made money.
Yep. So they were
I don't know if it was a hit, but it made money.
I don't know if they just wanted to keep tending toward the trash side
yes,
after
definitely.
that.
Well,
or like
erotic thriller. I mean, to one person's trash is another person's erotic 90s thriller. So some tone daddy out there is really enjoying these movies, doing the soundtrack.
Well, Verhoeven had told Esterhaus that he liked big old vintage Hollywood movies, and so Joe said, well, what about setting something in Vegas? That would be a fresh take on that. Somehow that and an idea scribbled on a napkin ended up as Showgirls, and Esterhaus was advanced $2 million to write the script and picked up an additional $1.7 million when the studio produced it into a film.
Wow.
Now, along with his checks from Basic Instinct and Sliver, it made him the highest paid screenwriter in Hollywood history.
What?
Damn.
$2 million? $2 million for Showgirls.
$2 million for Showgirls, just the idea on a napkin.
We're still talking about it.
We are.
That script actually, once you get past all the madness of it, the script is razor sharp. It's fantastic. That's why it's loved from every aspect, to like tone daddies to queer icons. I mean,
that's true. It has become a real
beloved
cult LGBTQ classic.
What do they like about it?
Well, partly that community embraces underdog stories.
I've never seen it.
Of all types. Oh, it's about a street smart drifter who ventures to Las Vegas and climbs the seedy hierarchy from stripper to showgirl.
Okay.
Apparently, Esterhaus sat down and interviewed like 200 strippers and made a sort of composite.
He had $2 million to do it. So.
Yeah.
Spent a little time in Vegas.
Amazing. So yeah, it had a. You haven't seen it.
No, I'd have no idea why people think it's terrible. Or
Did
anything.
you see Saved by the Bell?
I know of it.
Okay, well, there's a character named Jessie on that who was played by Elizabeth Berkley. This is really the only thing she was known for.
She was like
public.
a teenage sex icon.
Well, no,
she was
the straight girl.
Oh.
She was the brainish straight girl to the
Proper
foil of the everybody else. I
Okay.
mean, she was great on that show. But yeah.
So imagine you're her and you want to break into serious movie acting. And Verhoeven has defended her this whole time because the public turned on her. Hollywood turned on her because she just went from that silly but pristine character. No, she didn't. And she really played it huge. Oh, she really went for it. Overacting.
She goes for it.
But Verhoeven said that he specifically drew that out of her. And you know, over time, some critics have called it smart and satirical, and you know, it's really shifted the perception of it and also the success, because it did bomb at the box office. It took $45 million to make, and they grossed $37 million. But since then, it's enjoyed success on the home video market, generating more than $100 million from video rentals, allowing it to become one of MGM's top 20 all-time bestsellers. Wow.
Damn.
$100 million, that's a hit.
Cult classic right there. But it still has like really incredibly awkward jacuzzi sex scene with Kyle and beloved our
Kyle MacLachlan,
our man Kyle MacLachlan, who I have some quotes from him upon seeing it at the premiere.
Yeah, not since the climbing of the Shai Hulud scene has he shown such a spirited performance.
Here's Kyle on watching bad scene after bad scene unfold at the premiere.
Oh no.
Well, that's okay. The next one will be better. And you somehow try to convince yourself that it's going to get better, and it just gets worse. And I was like, wow, that was crazy.
Oh shit.
Then he said it was just maybe the wrong material with the wrong director and the wrong cast. That's all.
it's perfect. I mean, Verhoeven is like, satire is his thing. RoboCop is all about everything from technology to the police and the police state, and Starship Troopers is even about the American, military colonialism and all that stuff, and how we're like, yay, but actually it's boo. And yeah, he's Verhoeven, don't get me started.
So Starship Troopers was the film that followed Showgirls. Amazingly,
so good.
Just like the timeline is so hard to
Still
believe.
had
now.
An awkward jacuzzi sex scene in it too, which was just found out that's his calling card.
Well, the part of this story that really gets me. Oh wait, I forgot the awards. It won record-breaking Golden Raspberry Awards in 1995. The Razzies, which give out awards for terrible films.
Sure.
They broke a record that year by winning 7 Razzies, including Worst Picture, Worst Actress, Worst Director, Screenplay, New Star, Worst Screen Couple, and Worst Original Song.
That's just mean.
Worst song.
It's just what? Yeah,
it was for Walk Into the Wind.
Wow. Performed by Christopher Walken. Sorry.
Walk Into the Wind.
Showgirls.
Verhoeven was a good sport about it, though, and he appeared in person at the Razzies ceremony to accept the award. And Showgirls would later win an 8th Razzie for Worst Picture of Last Decade in 2000.
Oh, wow.
And it was soon tied with Battlefield Earth for winning the most Razzies in a single year.
Wow. 100 million, though. Who's laughing now?
Right? Been much discussed. I found so many critiques online, and some there was like a feminist critique that played along a track to the entire movie, basically, and explained how the foreshadowing was brilliant and it had all these layers of meaning and everything.
Oh, yeah. Well, another thing with like cult classics and bad movies is the best ones are the ones that you can do just that to. You can see these things and say, oh, which is what I've done with The Room, my personal favorite bad movie of all time. I find layers in there that even like the most thorough critiques haven't even noticed before. And at that point, I've decided I might not watch it for a couple of years and let it. I wasn't watching it a lot, but it's just like
you were on the front lines of that. I remember it was fun watching the infamy of that popularity of that movie unfold, because you were just like right there. I had to see this movie. I had to see it, and it did not disappoint. It did not disappoint. So our story doesn't end there with the
please go
the
on.
Razzie ceremony. One of the actresses.
Raspberries. Razzie is short for raspberry.
Golden raspberries.
Golden raspberry.
Why? Raspberries are delicious.
There was an unofficial spin-off sequel called Showgirls 2 Pennies from Heaven, like Penny apostrophe S.
Unofficial?
Oh, like Penny is from heaven.
Yeah, like she was allowed to use the name of it.
Okay.
And everyone was on board with that, which seems unusual for Hollywood, but Verhoeven gave his blessing. He was actually approached. So one of the actresses who played Penny Slott in Showgirls and is the main character in Showgirls 2, she approached Verhoeven with her script that she'd written, originally titled Star Dancer, and asked him to produce, and he declined. Let me see, I have his quote here. It's actually more sad than funny. Poor guy.
Hell no. Paul Verhoeven.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Call it Showgirls 3 and you've got a deal.
He declined along with the first movie's executive producers, but gave her his blessing to pursue the passion project. He said it was the most painful, hurtful, negative experience, and he would never step foot back into the Showgirls world again.
I bet nobody really wants a Razzie. Right? I mean, you don't want that Razzie.
We'll accept it in good fun. But
Yeah. You store it on the back of a toilet or something.
Okay, back to Showgirls 2, Pennies from Heaven, which I did watch all 2
damn.
hours and 30 minutes.
Wait, you watched
of.
Penny is from Heaven, Showgirls 2?
I did yesterday.
Wow.
Am I getting it right? It's an apostrophe.
Pennies from Heaven.
Just in case you're wondering. Heaven, North Dakota.
I mean, she made a bold choice to write, direct, star in, and edit and produce
all
the
signs of a
movie
bad movie.
in 2011. Yeah, this was 2.5 hours. And in an interview, she said her first cut was 4 hours with a lot of pregnant pauses.
She was making
emotionally.
cinema.
She really was. She just went for it, and I love that story of someone who's just like, I just need to do this thing and let's make it happen. And, she'd been treated pretty poorly by casting directors. She would go in for auditions and wouldn't even be allowed to audition. She would be chastised by people, and they would say, how could you do that, Rena? You should be ashamed of yourself for doing Showgirls.
Wow.
It built this fire and this burning desire in her to bring back whatever good name they'd hoped for.
Really?
For the Showgirls.
They said that? They were like, you were in Showgirls. So that Hollywood's so disgusting. Fuck that place. I love bad movies specifically also for that. They're so gross. And then they're like, oh, you were in Showgirls. It's like, man, you
might enjoy this movie then. It was budgeted at 30,000.
4-hour version?
No, well, and it got down to two and a
right.
half.
Okay.
The budget was 30,000. It was shot in 30 days over a 4-month period in 2010. It's riddled with technical glitches in continuity, sound editing, and actors' readings, weird intonation, and flubbed lines. And yeah, the Rotten Tomatoes audience score was 13%. And there was no critical consensus on the site for it. So it's very under the radar
couldn't
still.
even have a consensus.
10 years later, it's very under the radar.
Wow.
But
I didn't even know.
It sort of reminds me of Tour. There's a certain sort of movie, a lot of road movies are like this, where it's just one scene of going to a wacky place and meeting people, and then another scene on top, and nothing kind of ever comes back around. And
there's no narrative. It's just kind of a way of passing time.
It just goes through. So that's basically what this movie is. But her friendship with another character, return character from the original Showgirls, Katya.
Was that Gina Gershon's character? It
is Gina Gershon's character, but it's played, I don't have her name here. She was really good.
Played by Gino Gershon.
Oh, in my notes I just have hot dog scene. Okay, so there's a scene where
okay. That's great.
Wait, is this the movie that you did a song on?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
Just curious.
So there's the hot dog scene is Penny and Katya they have a bonding night where they're just boiling hot dogs and they're just staring into the water and giggling and laughing. It's like 30-40 seconds of them just laughing at these boiling hot dogs. And it's so weird. And then
who doesn't laugh at boiling hot dogs?
And then they pick them out with tongs, and they're just having this conversation, just holding them on the tongs, and it ends with the Lady and the Tramp eating of the hot dog.
Wow.
They just had one hot dog.
It's one on one end and the other on eating until they get together and they kiss, or one turns away bashfully.
Well, there's actually kind of a nice choreographed topless pool scene after that, where it's sort of she's hitting on that
sure, hot dogs to topless pool
crazy jacuzzi scene from the first one, but I mean a lot of themes return
it's
in
a summer movie.
But I just think that it's amazing that she did all that, and it's out there.
Wow.
to watch.
I have to see this.
Penny slot, pennies from heaven.
That's what the internet says.
Okay, so we know what two of the movies that we're getting into are. Should we get into these songs?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
What did you make this week? What did you make this week? Tell us all about it. 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 Tell us all about it.
All right, Skyler. The Room.
Yes.
The Room or Room? I was confused which one is which.
The Room. Room
Okay.
is with Brie Larson, and it's probably has a much higher score on critics.
I've seen that one.
Yeah. The Room, which is all takes place in kind of around this guy named Johnny, and I don't know. A lot's been said about this movie at this point.
I've seen the movie about the movie.
Yeah, there's even that too, which I enjoyed to some extent. I was worried it might take some of the magic away, but it didn't. It's its own thing.
It seems like Tommy Wiseau was complicit in the making of the movie about the movie.
Yeah. Because I've seen the movie with him.
Have you seen the movie?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it with him there in attendance as an audience member a few times.
Oh.
And
Okay, so you're like really into this movie.
yeah, I mean, not really. It's just like, hey, it's playing. Let's go see it. It'll be funny. And you get stoned and you go and you watch it. It's not a way of life, though you could apply a lot of his advice to it, like don't plan everything. Or if a lot of people liked each other, the world would be a better place. Not all people, but a lot. Let's be realistic. And I was worried maybe he would ruin my impression, or, you don't want to meet like these.
Oh, like maybe he was just playing a character.
Exactly.
Of a character.
But then even in person, he would say things like, during the question and answer, somebody said, I heard you like to sing. What do you like to sing? And he says, oh, I sing all the greats, Metallica, Shakespeare. And it's like, what? Are you like, it's like, he really does think that way. There's nobody planning these ridiculous, beautifully random thoughts and ideas placed together in sentences. And that to me is like what The Room is. And also basically what, and it's perfect that you brought movies as this prompt, because I've been working here and there on a project where I've just been writing songs about movies. So when I got your prompt, I thought, okay, now I have to do one about The Room, because I was almost done with the project. But I was like, oh, this works out perfectly. So I thought about The Room, and I thought about what kind of song it would be. And I was like, well, I want it to be fun and weird and not for everybody. Also, what was really fun, Truth Window, is that I love it. What happened is when I was singing it, I was singing the chorus, Oh, Hi, Mark, which is a famous line from that movie. And at one point I said, oh, har, Mike. And I was like, oh, it's fine. So like in the spirit of bad first takes and bad movies, I'm like, there's mistakes all over the place, even wrong words. But I thought, if you haven't seen The Room, you should see it.
Before listening to this song.
Yeah, just not with your, actually you should watch it with your folks. I think it'd be better. Just be like, this is a really good movie. And then just every once in a while peek, because I've done this before, every once in a while just peek over at their face and watch when it turns, when that thing switches where you're like, no, this is not, what, wait, and it's like you can't look away. So
and then listen to this song.
Yeah.
Love is blind, that's why you love her. Always you will be favorite customer. How can she and Chris all be so mean? Danny, you can't plan out everything. Oh my word. Martha, the bank job, time for vodka scotch. While Lisa and Mark take it up a notch. Your pockets are bursting with stupid comments. You can fall off the earth and lots of promise.
Oh, sweet riffs.
I wish we had
Oh, hi, Mike.
I wish we had video so everyone could see you mouthing along with the oh hi marks. It's delightful.
I just like saying it. So some of my, it was hard to pick my favorite lines to use in lyrics and what to choose.
Were those only lines from the?
The fun thing about this movie project, basically, can I talk about it?
Yeah.
Please.
It started because I'd written this record, the last Team Evil record, which I felt emotionally took a lot out of me, and also we did the Point Juncture record. That was like a double LP, very big undertaking. And afterwards, I just felt kind of like musically pure, like fresh. I didn't know what to, but also I didn't know what to write about.
Clean slate.
Yeah. And I was like, what do I write? I'm like, politically shit. Can I say shit? Stuff sucks. I've been swearing this whole time. But I have another band called Mune where I kind of like scratch that itch for like political and everything from loans to cats, just this big part of me.
Mm-hmm. Checking the cats.
But I love movies, and so just one day I wrote a song about Big Trouble in Little China, which is probably watches per capita my favorite movie of all time. I played it for my friend Michael Heald, and he was like, "Oh, you should do a whole record of those." I was like, "Yeah, right." And then I just started doing it. And what was weird is when writing about these movies, I felt, because I've always written from my point of view and my perspective, sometimes from like a lover's perspective or an ex's perspective, or like my father or something like that, someone who's close to me, but never just like a character, like a lot of great songwriters can do, like Bob Dylan or Kate Bush, where they create these elaborate characters and write these stories for them. But I've always been like a very personal writer. So in writing about these songs, all of a sudden I'm these other characters.
Right.
For example, I did one about When Harry Met Sally, and writing from that perspective and going through that story, and the song has kind of a somber melody, but it's like upbeat, and I like it, but I felt emotional in telling this other story from this other thing, just being this character. And I thought,
because it is actually a part of you, right? It's like, that's what I'm noticing with the podcast is like, because we have these prompts, we're like, basing them on things that, writing songs on things that like aren't things we would typically do.
Right.
But they're still being generated from inside of us, right? So there's like an element of it where you have to like tap in yourself to that thing.
And your connection to it. Exactly.
So you're kind of broaddening yourself in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
like
And all of a
writing
sudden,
comedic songs or whatever.
symphonies or
Does your When Harry Met Sally song have wagon wheel table or baby fish mouth in it?
No, it doesn't. The song ended up tapping into the real emotional core of the song. So all the funny stuff was kind of left. There is a mention of I'll have what she's having, but then of course it quickly gets serious with attraction changes everything, and then it goes through this thing, and all the songs are about 1 minute and a half, on an average minute and a half, and they just kind of take you through the story in the way that I can tell it, but depending on the music is how I will relate to it emotionally through the lyrics. So it's been a really interesting experience to write from these perspectives and go to these dark places depending on the movie, or these light places, or these funny places. And so The Room was really fun to do a song about, because I was able to be the characters and jump around and sing "Keep Your Stupid Comments in Your Pocket," which or my favorite line, "You all can fall off the face of the earth, and that's a promise." Is it? I don't think that's a promise.
But using the lyrics or using the lines from the movie is a central part of this project? Since The Room is such an ensemble of madness, I had to be the perspective of everybody. Where in Three Amigos, I'm the perspective of the little Mexican boy who finds them and asks them to help Acapulco. So it all depends on what character I'm latching into. But The Room was interesting because I couldn't just be Johnny. I couldn't just be Denny or any other, Chris R. or Claudette.
anybody. I wanted to be everybody. And so it just kind of goes through this narrative of like, you know, in my mind of what the narrative is. So, but it's been a really fun thing, and I hope it affects my writing going on from now. Because after this, it's getting mastered, Team Evil plug, and it'll be released on all platforms at some point.
Nice.
And each song sounds different. You know, going with the prompt thing, I also allowed myself to say, how would Deerhoof write a song like this, or how would the Beach Boys write a song like this, or how would Kate Bush, again, who I've been listening to a lot, and like Rodelius, who's like a early 80s and 70s electronic musician, which your Space song reminded me of that. The meditation song reminded me of Rodelius. If you haven't listened to it,
I will.
it's fantastic. It's a really beautiful album. It's just like
Nice.
except without your soothing voice over it. But yeah.
So what was your process with this specific song? Did lyrics come first?
No.
Research?
I sent
He's
Walker.
got those facts at hand. He doesn't need to do research about the room.
I sent Walker. I was so excited about doing the room that I got the idea, and I sent Walker the voice memo. But it's, oh, you have it.
I have it.
And this is pretty much how I write all my songs from this point on, unless I'm just sitting at a keyboard. I've written so many songs from work in like exam room 4 where I just run in and you know, scat something into the.
With like clackalackas and stuff.
There's some other music playing in the
Nice,
background
yeah.
too that sounds like.
It kind of worked.
Oh, it's probably David Bowie. I don't know if we have the rights for that. Yeah, that's basically is what came to me, and I
With
knew,
clackalackas.
yeah, and I knew I wanted to have a roomy drum sound, so I pulled all the foam and all the pillows out of the kick drum and tuned it up and made it as annoyingly loud as I could, and I pulled the mic way back and just tried to get a roomy drum sound, and when I went down to play it initially, it felt, you know, again, because I'm not a tone daddy, so I'm just gonna say that so much. I can't play very well, so I was worried, but as soon as I hit record, I was like, you know,
Just
doing everything fine. I was like, oh, this is great, and it took me out of my comfort zone, because you scat it first, and then you have to commit to it. So, but it was fun to do, and then kind of the verse came to me later, because I was just like, how can I just make a silly riff? I just wanted it to.
So you had all the music down, and then you sang over it.
Yeah, I recorded that first. And the lyrics kind of came to me as I wrote the parts. It's just it all just kind of like came together pretty fast, and you know, I'm a big fan of verse chorus finale. That's how I like to write the songs.
Nice.
But I actually went back to a chorus in this one and wrote a bridge, which was fun.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Mark. Oh, hi, Mark. I mean, who doesn't like to be said hi to? Who doesn't enjoy saying hi to a friend?
Well, thanks for writing the song.
Thank you
This is
for
amazing.
lighting a fire under me. That was really fun.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing that record too.
I'm looking forward to hearing.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing what and discussing your films.
Well, we already know Showgirls 2 is on the docket. Should we
Oh
get to
man,
Sure.
I'm ready to hear it.
it? What should we know before we hear your song?
Well, maybe I'll give you. The first thing I did was drums. Victor was cleaning the basement, and there was this question of what to do with these acoustic multi-rods, which are like little barbecue skewers all taped together, kind of drumsticks.
Wow.
And I said, I'll keep those, and I went and I just hit the snare with them. I turned the snare off, and I hit the snare with them, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool, weird sound. And then I just started playing a beat, and then I just recorded, and so the drums came first. That's a few different layers,
Nice.
overdubbed, but
Wow.
Well, crushed out.
That almost sounded like tape when you slow it down. That whoosh.
Mm.
It's really nice sounding.
So drums first, as I often do, and then I thought at that point it was going to be a montage of lines from terrible sequels. So I imported all those samples. I had some very good D3 Mighty Ducks material.
Give us one.
Grease 2 was...
You remember any good lines offhand?
For the Grease 2 one was a girl talking to her teacher and saying, "I've missed my last 2 periods." And the teacher says, "That's okay. You can make it up after class." It's just like, yeah.
That's Grease 2 coming to a theater near you.
Reproduction. Yeah, it's like, I haven't seen it, but it looked pretty bad. I had a little scene
Wait, is that
from
a song about sex ed or something?
Reproduction.
It's
That's
so
all
bad.
I know.
Yeah, it's so bad you have to see Grease 3 first.
Yeah. Oh, so bad. Yeah, I had some clips from I think the second Paul Blart Mall Cop movie. It ran the gamut. They weren't really matching together. They didn't have anything to do with that beat. But I had one from Pennies from Heaven. And it was Katya's character saying, "You've got that red hot magic heat," which is a theme they keep coming back to, the director on the show.
Now that's a $2 million script.
There you go. Star Dancer was the first name of it. That's why the song is called Star Dancer. Then my plan was going to be to only use lines from the movie to compose all of the lyrics for a whole song. And so I watched the movie, and I had the chorus, and I just couldn't do it. The verse, I just couldn't do it. So what I ended up
kind of a lot of work.
It was
a lot of
and
research.
Because there's always this place where there's a crossroads for me anyway, almost every week with this, unless I have a clear-cut idea and it's like serious and it's already got momentum. I'm like, do I go for something that gets a laugh while we listen to it and just throw it away like any other consumable entertainment, never to think about it again? Or do I try to
connect emotionally,
sincere, and make a song that maybe someone would want to put on again, say if we released it, outside of the podcast? And I ended up just thinking I'll use samples from the movie and just slap them on there. But I had a lot of fun layering keyboards.
Nice.
Ooh.
So here's Star Dancer.
That ain't no throwaway song.
Holy smokes. You know,
literally.
I was so lazy though. I just copy and pasted those choruses.
no, what?
Whatever.
That's
the pop song way.
I was right there. Actually, that reminded me of one of my favorite things that they don't do anymore, but they did in the 80s and in the 90s a little bit too, which was they for the music video for the song and the soundtrack, like the main one, like you just made for that movie, which they should pay you for because that's hot, is also
at the very least closing credits.
But you remember in those videos they would also show clips from the movie and speaking clips in moments. So if you had the soundtrack at home, it'd just be the song. But the music video, when they showed like emotional beats or exciting moments,
Totally.
and you're a dancer or something. You're not. You can't handle the truth, from that hit song, A Few Good Men. But it's like I was right there with you in that whole thing. It just took me to that moment, and I've never seen that movie, but I'm pretty sure it takes place in the Crab Nebula now. That's amazing. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what else? So you got the drums down?
Drums down, added some percussion on it, that kabasa, which that's been my favorite lately. Of course, yeah, tiny cymbals, of course.
Right.
And just, a whole bunch of layers of keyboard. That bass, the main, vibe of the song, I didn't find till I did a bunch of the slide whistly patches, and I did the chords and the kind of out of tune electric piano chords, and then I should probably put a bass line on this after all, and it just hit this wah,
became everything.
It was like, that's just the vibe of the whole song now. So.
I feel like there's a line in the sand between people, and there's ones that know how to do well, and that was really, I was just
great.
so jealous. I'm like, how does she do? I mean,
Wasn't planned.
so good.
I've been just playing a lot of video games and thinking about video games lately and noticing how video game like recording when you're on a budgeted amount of time is, because that wasn't an arpeggiator on the keyboard. I was literally playing that part and deciding, when the pattern was going to be slightly different and stuff. And it's just like, okay, I just made this thing up 10 seconds ago. I'm just going to press record and see if I can hit it, and just like, ding, 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 and then you make a dumb mistake where you hit both your thumbs at the same time, and you're like, you died that level. You have to start again.
No way, man.
So I
you
had
won.
a lot
You rescued the town. The princess is in that castle.
Hey, y'all, what did you make? What was your film?
Okay, I'm just going to give you a small setup, very short setup, and give you the song, and then I'll talk about the movie. But
I just want to say, I know I can see, and I just want to say I'm a huge fan of this movie.
This movie is called Double Team. Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
JCVD. Oh, I like him.
This movie, when I was younger.
Well, with Dennis Rodman, right?
Yes. That comes into play in the lyrics of the song.
You seem exasperated when I said Dennis Rodman.
The stock is
my mouth hurts from smiling so hard.
Wait, did he do the splits in this movie?
Oh, yeah.
He probably does it at some point.
I'm pretty sure he does it when he's fighting tigers in a landmine.
So you're giving it all away.
Sorry. This is so great.
So imagine this song is maybe the musical version of this movie, or it could just happen really in the normal version. But it's Jean-Claude Van Damme. From his perspective, he would be singing this song at the very end of the movie after the villain has been vanquished.
Wait, tell us how the villain was vanquished once again, please.
He fights a tiger in a coliseum.
Check.
And there's a bunch of mines.
Not just any coliseum, the Roman Coliseum. And there's landmines.
There's landmines, and each one is marked by a cross. And Dennis Rodman is a wily character, and he moves the cross. And so the villain ends up stepping where he thinks there isn't a landmine, but because Dennis Rodman has moved the cross, he steps on the landmine.
Yeah, narrowly avoiding being mauled by a tiger.
Right, until the tiger comes into play and then blows both of them up.
Well, it would have been
at the same time.
unsatisfying if the landmines everywhere weren't activated at least once, right?
Right. Okay, so that's the plot, premise, everything. So this is Jean-Claude Van Damme singing at the very end of the movie.
I stole the plutonium. Then I retired from the force. And then 3 years later, a man comes creeping on my lawn to tell me Stavros is on the loose, and I'm the only one who can bring him down. So I go to the carnival and I have a clear shot, but I see the humanity in his eyes. So I failed my mission and got taken to the penal colony, where I work out a lot and shave my fingertips off to escape to save my wife and child from Stavros. Nobody knows why this movie is called Double Team. The plot is completely incomprehensible. I don't even pair up with Dennis Rodman till the last 30 minutes of the film, when we fight the tiger in the Coliseum full of mines. Oh yeah, did I mention that Dennis Rodman's in this movie? Coca-Cola.
And then you would just see Dennis Rodman like flexing in front of the burning Coliseum, basically.
Wow.
How the movie actually ends.
That is
And there's-
so good. And in the spirit of taking yourself from that being the character and then breaking the third wall in the third verse or fourth wall and realizing that you're in this movie
Yeah.
and you can't even comprehend the title.
Why did he steal the plutonium?
The plutonium is like the cold open is him stealing the plutonium from Stavros, this like villain person.
You can tell by his name.
And it's like
Stavros.
it's his final mission, and then he retires, and then so he steals the plutonium and then retires, and then the next scene is like him being approached by the CIA person or whatever to like, because Stavros is back in action.
And he shaves his fingertips off so that
Yeah,
he
okay,
can't
so
be fingerprinted?
the penal colony part is really difficult to
I
explain.
totally
The penal
forgot
colony
about that part.
It's like, so all these like secret agents from around the world who failed missions, I think, but they're like
probably
too,
break some rules.
they say they're like too dangerous to let release in the world, but like, or like to keep alive, but I don't know. They want to keep them somehow. So they're in this like penal colony where they're like basically a think tank for like world problems for some reason.
between workouts.
Yeah. And Jean-Claude Van Damme, so he's like injured at the very beginning of it because he got beat up in this whole other thing where they first introduced Dennis Rodman. The movie is really incongruous.
Dennis Rodman also is not a basketball player. He's not Dennis Rodman in the movie.
But every line that he has is like a basketball
yeah,
pun.
totally. Yeah, he's just like, that net was, you got caught in it.
I only miss once.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's in this penal colony where he's just constantly being monitored, and he has to like give his fingerprint for like a bunch of confirmations, otherwise like some gas gets released. There's like a cargo plane that flies into the penal colony to deliver them supplies every once in a while, and there's a lake in the middle that has lasers so you can't like swim across it, but the lasers get released when the cargo supply comes on, so there's this short period of time where you can be in the water. I don't know. Most of this is not worth explaining. He works out a lot. At one point,
It's fascinating.
I'm loving this.
At one point, he fills a bathtub with water and just starts doing squats with it, with like a giant bathtub full of water.
He's so strong.
He's doing all sorts of maneuvers, working out a lot, and so his big plan is to somehow like fake the authorization that says that he's in the room, his room. It's like difficult to watch. He just like takes a blade and slices off his
Victor,
fingernail.
don't look. Don't listen.
It's the worst.
Engineer Victor, don't listen.
It's graphic. And then
it is, and it's funny that they're supplied with these razors.
and he figures out one of those like the those birds that like dip their head into water, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So he makes a thing like that so that he puts the fingerprint on the end of, and it's attached to a Coca-Cola can. There's tons shameless Coca-Cola plugs in this whole thing. At the very end where the explosion happens, they save themselves by hiding behind a Coca-Cola vending machine.
Yeah, totally. The tiger's like drinking Coke out of like a water bowl with like Coke emblem on the outside of it.
Perpetual motion machines just dipping into Coke.
Honest Jams brought to you by Pepsi.
So he figures out how to make that device like authenticate him so that he's in the space at the same time the cargo plane drops. The lasers release from the lake. He jumps in the lake, attaches himself to the cargo plane, gets in the cargo plane, kills all the people in the cargo planes, and then gets back to, because he does all this because in the all the intelligence information that he's like analyzing with the think tank, at some point he notices that like Stavros has sent him he like sees a picture and it tells him that Stavros has indicated to him that his wife was pregnant when he left. Mm-hmm. It's just a lot. There's a lot to explain. At one point he says happy birthday, and it just says happy birthday on his calendar across 5 days, and I'm like, which day? You don't write happy birthday across 5 days. Which day is it?
Well, us Leos do.
Yeah. So the only appearance Dennis Rodman makes in all of this is he's like the guy that is his arms dealer in order to do the hit at the carnival, and then he goes away, and then Jean-Claude Van Damme goes to the penal colony for a little while, which is like kind of the best part of the movie.
Well, yeah, that and the
workout montage.
Yeah,
the whole situation, how it's set up, so that then he gets out.
And who's the villain? Who plays
Mickey
the
Rourke.
villain? That's right.
Right. So Stavros is Mickey Rourke.
Don't forget, Mickey Rourke is also in this movie, and like not the 80s like.
No, he's jacked.
Yeah, this is the jacked 90s like unhinged Mickey Rourke.
Yeah,
you guys are selling this movie. I want to watch it.
It's worth seeing it.
I highly recommend it.
So so he gets out, and then he's going now, like, I gotta find, because Stavros kidnapped his wife and child, and that's where Dennis Rodman comes back in. There's a whole scene where so the end scene is them fighting in a coliseum and with a tiger. Jean-Claude Van Damme kicks the tiger in the face. It's terrible.
I just try to make it a point to see all of Dennis Rodman's films. I think you should put those on your list.
Wait, are there other ones?
Oh yeah, like Simple Simon, and
I don't know.
That's it. That's all. Demolition Man. Oh no, wait, that was Wesley Snipes.
Those are very different people.
Well, they really like made it a point to make Wesley Snipes in Demolition Man like Dennis Rodman in the way that he wore crop top T-shirts with overalls and multicolored styles of hair. And I think they said that was kind of a thing they were going for at that time.
So this one in the good bad movie category. If you got it's like
worth the watch.
Worth the watch if you're into bad movies. Definitely still pretty fucking bad.
Yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's like my favorite of that tier of action actor.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, and JCVD is actually like
that's a great film.
movie.
Yeah.
Well done, well acted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, compared to, like, you can take your Chuck Norris, you can have your Seagal.
Chuck Norris is a little below all those people, right?
He's not a great actor.
Like, he's kind of like the TV version of those movie stars, right? Chuck Norris?
No,
see, I don't know his movies.
Yeah, we'll start with Delta Force and we can go from there.
And then Steven Seagal is just way lower.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a great
Schwarzenegger though. Schwarzenegger versus Van Damme.
He's in a different. Okay. I don't put them in the same.
What about like Jean-Claude Van Damme versus The Rock?
JCVD.
Oh yeah, because he can jump around and bounce, do some splits. You don't want to be kicked by him.
He kicks a lot.
He does.
He likes to show off his legs.
He does. And The Rock.
He fights this one guy in this movie who has a knife in between their toes.
That seems uncomfortable.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a good strategy.
You'd probably lose that fight because you're so worried about wait, be careful, I have a knife between my toes.
Well, he's kicking a lot.
Oh yeah, okay.
So that's my song.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's all our songs.
Yeah,
we did it.
We did it.
Skyler, you did it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you back. Maybe share some more tunes from your movie album.
Oh yeah.
Yes, anytime. I had a great time, and I just can't stress how great The Room is, and if anybody listening hasn't seen it, please see it. It's just, it reminds me of when we were kids and we would play like, my sister and I would play house sometimes. We'd be like, this is our house, and let's make dinner and let's do this, and but like that whatever we said, when we were like 4 or 5, translated into adults, and then they spent $1 million to make this movie acting out. So everything's, oh hi honey, I didn't get the job at the bank, and like what a sexy red dress. So everything is, it's like a Martian came and like was like, I'm gonna write a movie thinking that this is how humans work, and it's just like unnecessary plot twists, and
They're all wearing suits, shooting some hoops.
Football, right?
Throwing football around.
Is it football?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like all sorts of stuff happens, and then at the end she's like, "We're pregnant," and
the ending, yeah.
Yeah, a friend of theirs who's not in any other scene, he just shows up at the end, is like, what are you doing? Why'd you say you were pregnant? And she said, oh, I just wanted things to be interesting. And it's like, this is the end of the movie. Like somebody has already held your like surrogate son
Spoiler alert.
With a gun, and you're having an affair with your fiance's best friend. Your mom has cancer, but nothing's interesting enough. Let's just lie to our friends that we're pregnant. And you're just like, what? Okay. And that's like towards the end. But anyways, I think it's a fun movie.
Speaking of interesting, do you have anything interesting else to share about things you might be doing in the world musically, releasing stuff?
I'm excited for this quarantine to end so I can start seeing some shows again.
Mm-hmm.
But just working on music. I'm excited for this movie song album to come out to the world. It's not really, again, it's a lot of first takes and that kind of stuff, but it was really fun.
You don't gotta talk it down.
Huh?
You don't gotta talk it down.
Yeah.
We just heard the quality.
Yeah, disclaimers. Yeah, well, I mean, I do make some mistakes in some lyrics, but I had a great time making it, and I'm releasing it as a Team Evil joint because it sounds like Team Evil, and the songs are short, and I thought of that, and I was like,
I love that last Team
that's
Evil
a great
record
idea.
too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. That one was a more of a heavier emotional experience.
Sure.
So it's nice to be able to like dip my toe in somebody else's emotional experience, and then after the song's over, you can leave it behind. So it's great. And if anybody hasn't tried writing a song about a movie, let this week's prompt inspire you. It's been fun. I was really excited. Both of your songs were fantastic, and felt very cinematic. Not what I was expecting. So that was really cool.
You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, and I love Double Team, and I'm very excited to check out Showgirls too. Holy cow! The hard part about
the whole thing's on YouTube.
Oh damn.
Well, the hard part about quarantine is that bad movies are best watched with at least some friends or somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So like me
Have a little
watching
conversation.
Showgirls 2 on YouTube by myself, I'm like, I may not be emotionally ready for that, but I think a beer or two and I should be able to get through it and enjoy it. So I can't wait. You should send me your song, and then I can play it in all the slow parts. So that it'll really bring the
You should
drama.
hear the sample collection I didn't use from that.
Oh shit.
Things like Katya saying, I don't know what's worse, your dancing or your camel toe.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Wow.
she goes to places. She goes to so many places.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah, that was also a line in Double Team. So yeah.
Well, thanks for being here.
Anytime, anywhere. I love it. You guys are great. I love the podcast. I listen to it all the time
There's only one thing left to say.
We can bang on pots and pans.
and still kick out some honest jams.
Honest Jams podcast is written, recorded, and produced by A. Walker Spring and Ayal Alvis, and edited by me. Special thanks to Victor Nash for recording this episode and mixing our theme. Special thanks to Oogie. And thank you for listening. We can't wait to hear what you make next.